I've been asked lots and lots during the first half and on Twitter as well to talk about the Brighton manager, Roberto De Zerbi. I mean, obviously, as an Ipswich Town fan, we have a dog in the fight here. And when you see the odds for who's going to replace Roberto De Zerbi, you'll see why. But the news is that after tomorrow's round 38 Premier League game between Brighton and Manchester United, Roberto De Zerbi will be leaving Brighton. And obviously, our focus here is not massively going to be on where Roberto De Zerbi is going to be going, but who might be replacing Roberto De Zerbi. Let me have a look just on the Brighton website. This is Tony Bloom. Roberto has given us 2 excellent seasons of service, which has led the club to new heights, not least our first ever European campaign. Bloody blah, best wishes, good send-off. Roberto De Zerbi said, I'm very sad to be leaving Brighton, very proud of what my players and staff have done. Looks like all his staff are going with him as well. We've agreed to end my time so that the club and I can continue to work in the way that suits each of us best. There you go. So, as I say, I think a few people in the chat were talking about De Zerbi going off to Italy. Obviously, the Manchester United job may be coming up. The West Ham job, we think that one's all done and dusted, don't we? And the Liverpool job, that one's all done and dusted. But the Brighton job is now open. And let's address the elephant in the room, because I am an Ipswich Town fan, which is why people want my opinion on this. And if we head over to our lovely friends at, and this is shortened even since I copied and pasted the address in. There you go. Next permanent Brighton manager, the favourite, the clear favourite, Kieran McKenna, 5-2. Let me just zoom in. In fact, let me just do it like this. One sec, guys, and you'll be able to read that better on the screen. Is it going to let me? There you go. Hopefully you can see that better. Kieran McKenna, 5-2. Francesco Farioli, Russell Martin, Vincent Kompany, all 5-1. Graham Potter, Liam Rossinia, all, or rather both, 8-1. Now, I always say this. Remember, betting odds reflect a liability, not a probability. So just because something's a short odds doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. It means that a lot of people have bet on it. And they might have bet on it because it might happen. But they might have bet on it because they think it's good value. And it might not happen. And conversely, someone being long odds doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means people haven't bet on it. And the bookies are happy to take a liability. But there is no smoke without fire. I think this has been one that all Ipswich fans have had an eye on most of the season, really. And McKenna's stock was obviously high going into this season after the promotion from League One. But it's ridiculously high now because not only has he stabilised Ipswich in the Championship, he's literally just missed it out and finished in second position. Hence why his name is going to be at the top of this list and this right in the conversation. And I mean, I'm trying to think, since Brighton got up, obviously Chris Hughton took Brighton up, didn't he? And then Hughton kept Brighton up. And then there was this switch where... And I think a few people were a bit, kind of outraged about it at the time. You got Chris Hughton, who's a kind of, great manager at Championship level, but was considered a pragmatic defensive manager by Norwich fans, even though he kept Norwich in the Premier League, and by maybe some Brighton fans as well. And who did they take? It was Graham Potter from Swansea. And if your argument is going to be Brighton wouldn't take someone out of the Championship, yes, they would, because obviously they took Graham Potter. And someone will correct me in the chat. I think Potter was he like 10th or 11th or something with Swansea? I think it was only their one season. Year one parachute season as well, wasn't it? 18-19. And Brighton took Potter, and he took Brighton to even better heights, as they've said on their website there. And then Potter went off to do the Chelsea job, didn't he? And Brighton took Roberto De Zerbi. And here we are with the Brighton job open. And let me just address Kieran McKenna, because it's hard to have a sensible conversation about this because there's a lot of emotion gets involved. And what you'll find is if you speak to an emotional Ipswich Town fan, and I'll try not to be one. I can be an Ipswich Town fan, but I'll try and not be an emotionally led one. What they'll do is they'll go with the emotional lead, and their emotions will tell them, I don't want Kieran McKenna to leave Ipswich. He's really good. And then that will then dictate their reasoning. Oh, McKenna won't do this. He won't do that. Blah, blah, blah. And you can go down that road if you want. But let's be honest, that has absolutely no bearing on what's actually going to happen. Because all that really matters is, what is Kieran McKenna thinking? And is he thinking, is the opportunity better, assuming he talks to Brighton or gets offered the Brighton job or whatever, is the opportunity better at Ipswich or at Brighton? And you can have a debate about that. You can argue it either way. People will argue it whichever way suits their narrative or their emotional needs. Doesn't matter. It's up to Kieran McKenna, doesn't it? And Kieran McKenna might think the opportunity at Ipswich to continue the work, take them into the Premier League and try and establish them, having managed them in League One and finished 11th in League One at the end of, was it 11th? I think it was, the first campaign. Does he want to continue the work there with Game Changer, the ownership, and try and move things on? Or at a very young age, he's not even 40, is he, McKenna? He's like 37 or something. I can't remember what age McKenna is. He's a very young manager. Or does he feel, okay, I've had a go at Ipswich. Might be hard to stay in the Premier League next season. And Brighton are established and really good club. Great recruitment, great squad, all of that, blah, blah, blah. And I'll make the step. And yeah, be my guest. You can argue it would be better to stay with Ipswich. You can argue it would be better to stay with Brighton. You're not right. You're not wrong. It's not relevant. What does Kieran McKenna think? And I guess we're going to find out and be interested to see what Brighton fans think. Well, you know, would they be interested in him being their manager? I can't think of a hotter manager in English football at the moment at McKenna's age that has just won back-to-back promotions and is now a Premier League manager. Be interested to see what Ipswich fans think. And again, if you are an Ipswich fan, it's about not being emotional, not being defensive. Because if you're emotional and defensive, you'll think of every reason under the sun why McKenna does not want to go and manage, frankly, an excellent club like Brighton, who, let me just bring a Premier League table up here on my iPad, who are 10th. And they're not going to finish any higher than 10th. But it's a top half established Premier League club who's had European football this season. So there you go. This is going to rumble now. We know that the Brighton job is open. I'm sure there's plenty of comments coming, but we're at half-time in the playoff final here for League One, so I'm not going to be able to read all of them out. I'll read some of them in the second half and certainly put them up on the screen because I want to go and get a coffee. But what we will do is we will clip this out and you can get your comments in. I suppose you want my opinion before we go. And let's be honest, this is an opinion on another human being's hunch. And I don't know what Kieran McKenna is going to do. All I will say is you would think it would be silly of Kieran McKenna, unless he's totally got his mind made up and he's totally invested, you would think his agent will at least talk to Brighton and see what they're going to say. And you'll see where the conversation goes. He might think it's too early to go. He might think it's exactly the right time to go. We are going to find out, and it's going to run and rumble. Get your thoughts in via the comments. We'll clip that one out, as I said.